I think it is July, I don't know, it's a Wednesday, maybe the 14th, July 14th, 2023. I want to talk a little bit about how good everything in the world is going. And if you're anti-government, if you're a libertarian, don't get sucked into the conservative, bootlicking, Wright narrative. If you see things as if how they are. Just one example, if you're anti-war, right? You're anti-war, and they keep creating war after war after war, and they're printing money and they're giving it to the Ukraine and what have you. First of all government programs fail. So, if you didn't think Russia was going to win prior to that and extend their fascist Christian regime there that they have kind of going on, I'm not sure exactly what Putin's up to. It ain't great because all governments fail, but the bigger the government, the quicker it is to fail. So the fact that they probably would have just stormed over Ukraine, now they're draining the empire of the U.S. government, which I don't necessarily see as a bad thing. But also, they're putting these dudes in there that cut their cocks off, wear makeup and wigs, these ugly-ass dudes trying to look like women, and everybody's like, clown world, oh my God, they're just good. Bro, trust me, if you're anti-war, you don't want a bunch of Jocko Wilcos in the military. You want these fucking faggots with their makeup and wigs and what have you, pretending to be women in the military. You want the picture of that dude on the computer with his pronouns of she, her. Trust me. And when you see these idiots turning in their guns, when you see these democratic cities turning in their guns, when you see the law enforcement getting weaker and hiring these fat old people and trans people and stuff and promoting women, you want all that. Imagine the U.S. military gets weaker, financially weaker because they print all this money and give it to the Ukraine. The military gets weaker because they keep hiring these low-T dudes that are literally injecting themselves with estrogen. So I'm not even using that as a derogatory term. It's a factual or objective term. They're injecting themselves with estrogen. So the testosterone that they have is making more estrogen, and they're getting boobs and weak and probably girl brains, which are similar to dog brains. Okay, that's a derogatory statement. I'll take that back. The police force is out of shape. The president's a walking moron. It's like, good. Vote Democrat then if you're gonna vote. Don't vote Libertarian. Vote Democrat. Continue this. Give it a couple more years of this, and you know how easy it would be to form a coup? You know how fun it will be to watch it collapse? Just stack cryptocurrency. I'm in the middle of running errands here, so I'm gonna have to get out of the car in a second, but just stack cryptocurrency, start a business, get some secondary passports, look into moving and seeing some countries like Portugal or in Dubai where they love crypto and they don't have taxes. I live in a income tax and sales tax free state. So instead of having money extorted from us to recycle, we actually bring our recycling to a recycling plant for free, drop it off, and then the individual here make money off the materials that they recycle. But you guys should just be happy. They're destroying the government, and you're like, why stop them? Why would you ever interrupt the enemy when they're in the middle of making a huge mistake? I mean, now, in the meantime, you better prepare for collapse, but enjoy it. What's going on is absolutely hilarious. The affirmative action thing, I mean, obviously anytime they remove a rule from the rulers, it's a good thing. But in the people that have really fed into this, bigotry of low expectations, they're going to continue to discriminate. I mean, you can easily discriminate, you can easily have meetings, you can wink and all this stuff, and they'll hire who they want to hire. I personally, so what they'll do is they'll make, so the reason they ended affirmative action, I guess I'll make a little side note here. It doesn't really matter. The rule was dumb, and the market will readjust because these companies will get destroyed. They'll probably end up getting bailouts, and we'll end up paying for them anyways. We meaning through inflation. If you're a fiat spender, again, look into some cryptocurrencies and how to spend them. But the reason they removed affirmative action and it wasn't stopped, they would have, if they wanted it stopped, what they would have done is, they would have murdered somebody in a far off cabin and not done an autopsy, or they would have dragged somebody through the coals for sexual, they would have drummed up sexual assault things and halted the case or whatever. So they wanted this to pass, and the reason that they wanted it to pass and that it got through was because now they've pushed in as many women in quote-unquote minorities. Women are not a minority. They make up 51%. China throws it off a little bit, but biologically, in the animal kingdom, you always get a little bit more females than you do males. So, globally, Caucasoids, Caucasians of light skin, I guess when you start doing Spanish-speaking countries, they're still pretty low. But if you're going to think pure European white is a minority, overall, Caucasoids not doing terribly bad when you insert a lot of Spanish-speaking countries that don't have Negroid backgrounds, that have Caucasoid backgrounds from Spain going around and taking over places back in the day. But anyways, I digress. So the reason they want this is because they want to be able to discriminate now. The next step is, now that they have non-whites in all these places to the best of their ability, they want to be able to discriminate to get the rest of the whites out. So now that they've gotten over, so this is going all over the place, but the Democrats aren't for democracy, obviously. They cater to the minority, of course, because if the Democrats were for democracy, then they would be for heterosexuality, because that's the majority of people. Homosexuality is a minority, and if it became the majority, then you'd have a population decline to a great extent that we wouldn't even exist anymore. So they're not for democracy. That's a bunch of bull. What they're for is power, and they just use whatever words they can have, with the exception of a few things. So once they get the power, once they've stacked the numbers in their favor. Once they've gotten all the low IQ individuals to believe with them and group them up and made them dependent on them, then they'll use the force at that time to push out the minorities. So they don't care about the minorities at that point. So once the company, they used not democracy, they used pretty much fascism to push out white individuals from these companies, and not necessarily white people, but just non-merit based. Insert that funny tweet from the big account here. And once they pushed that narrative of the affirmative action and got people in there that shouldn't be in there, based on the color of their skin, not based on their character and ability and merit, and based on their genitalia. Now those, if you look at these major companies and corporations now, they've injected all these low IQ, low pay, low skill individuals. Now that they have that power in there, now they're like, okay, let's get democracy back. And how are they doing that? Well, they're going to remove that affirmative action rule, because then they want natural order to take place now, because naturally those tribes are going to push out the white tribes. So they're going to say, we're one tribe, which is a minority, because they've been brainwashed with they're a minority. They're not a minority. White males are actually a minority. And they're going to end up starting to push them out now, which is why they had to remove those discrimination laws. So they want might to make right. They don't want merit-based, because everything's got to be flipped on their head, because it needs dependency. And then what you'll most likely see is bailout. So twofold. These corporations that are being pretty much nationalized through rules and pushing them, similar to fascism or similar to nationalization, like in Cuba and stuff, in Venezuela, they walk around and say national war. With fascism, when they run the corporations based on rules, and then the corporations collect taxes for them. So you're going to see a lot of these entities fall. If you're a libertarian, you should want corporations to fall. I always worry about these little cucky bow tie wearing people like Jeffrey Tucker that write these articles about McDonald's. Bro, McDonald's ain't a free market masterpiece. Okay, Cucker, whatever his name is there. Not Tucker Carlson, Jeffrey Cuckerson, whatever his name is there. The guy that he actually has a good essay called A Jefferson's Universe, I think, or based on I don't know, I forget what it is. But anyways, McDonald's is a real estate company that uses eminent domain, corporate backing, and rules from rulers to push out the competition, control and manipulate and exploit the franchise owners as well as the employees. And that's the part that the libertarians fail to mention, that these government entities do those things, and the communist people see it, but they don't understand it. It's not that capitalism exploits, it's the government exploits, and they exploit by making you believe that a corporation is a private entity, which it's not. It's a government entity. It's a rule created by rulers, magic words written on paper and handed out and indoctrinated, and people start believing it on all sides. The people believe it. The libertarians even believe it in many cases. The conservatives believe it. And much like government, I'm way off track here, rambling and ranting, but much like government, the system was created, these rules were written on a piece of paper 10 years ago, which were a warning label about what government shouldn't do, and then all they had to do was flip them and pretend like they carved out reality from chaos, when really they added these Bill of Rights, which were just like, they were trying to explain what exists in the world, and they were saying this exists in the world, so within these borders, just remember that these things exist. And people are like, yeah, government, king. But that's been all corrupted. The corporations are not libertarian in effect. They're not free market. They're government programs. The sooner you realize that, the more you can live in reality, that they're just evil. I forget where I was going with that. I was trying to explain. That's the problem with not being scripted and emptying my mind diarrhea into a video. So I got an idiot in front of me swerving in and out, so I have to watch him in traffic, and then I lose my train of thought because my prefrontal cortex gets shut off and shut on as I'm driving here. I guess that's it. So if you're a libertarian, be happy. They're destroying the military-industrial complex. They're destroying the police force. They're printing more money in the Federal Reserve. And they're destroying these corporations. I mean, what more could you ask for? It's almost like, sometimes I wonder if Soros isn't an anarcho-capitalist, you know? It's like, it's hard because he's got these Antifa out there, and he destroys everything, and then the insurance companies bail him out. Unfortunately, this freaking idiot, dude. These two idiots, I don't get it. This guy's swerving into this lane, and this guy's not moving. They're playing like side swipe me chicken. Must be females or transitioning. They look like that's what it is. They're not quite hitting each other. They're not quite driving poorly enough to get in an accident. So they must be men transitioning into women, and they haven't quite got there yet. Sorry, I'm cracking myself up. All right, I'll never release this. This is just something funny that maybe I'll keep all these. And then when I get big, and I hit certain markers, I'll release these as fun into a private thing where people can see unedited me just having a rant. That'll be something cool in the future.